Thank you all for having me today. I'm really excited today to talk about a new topic that actually I've been exploring, and I call it superhumanism. And superhumanism is really about expanding human capabilities. And I'm talking about A, physical capabilities, B, mental, emotional, and social. And I have a theory. My theory is that if you really understand what superpowers a person wants, you actually get a tremendous insight into their needs, their hopes, their dreams, their fears, and it can really help us to build new products that are widely adopted. And my mission is really to see if we can bring some of these products to life, and if we can not just take folks and give them a little feature here or there, but actually come up with big, world-changing ideas. Now, today I'm going to talk about two things. One, I'm going to give you some examples of superhumanism and some products that are out there. And second, I'm going to actually show you how superhumanism can be used to ideate and come up with new ideas. We've actually done a survey, which I'll go through, of 1,000 people asking them what superpowers they really want. So no doubt many of you saw Oscar. How many of you saw him in the Olympics running with the blades? You know, these blades are amazing. They actually are more responsive than the human foot and actually return more power and are a small form of superhumanism. There's another product called Exobionics from a company called Exobionics, which helps those who are paraplegic to walk and actually assist them. And they believe over time they can use this to help soldiers in the battlefield who are carrying tremendous weights as well. There's some folks at Kinki University in Japan who have developed a tooth enamel made out of hydroxyapatite, which is actually a material that's already in your teeth, and they've made a very thin nano layer of it, which when applied to your tooth will make it so you will never get a decay ever again. There's a company called SoundHawk, which is a startup in Silicon Valley, that's actually using 3 new technologies to try to give you superhuman hearing. So if you think about it, if you want super hearing, you don't want the ability to hear long from far away. That's not all that useful. But if you're in a busy cafe and you're talking to your friend, a lot of times, you're straining to hear. It'd be nice if you could cut out the other voices. And what they've done is use the fact that your iPhone has 3 DSPs in it to be able to leverage that technology to do tremendous processing and do things in terms of not a hearing aid, but a new superhuman hearing device that nobody has done. There's a company that's still in stealth, but that's looking at building a muscle shirt, where as you lift weights in the gym, it actually shows you what muscles you're using and how much strain you're putting on it to make sure that you don't end up injuring yourself and that you're working the right muscle. And some of you have probably heard about Lumobac, which is great in that it doesn't give you a report that says, oh, if you have a bad back, your posture's wrong. It actually keeps buzzing you until you get into the right posture to ensure that you relax your back and are in a way that will not impact it as well. And lastly, there's a person I know that's working on a belt that will use thermal sensors, just like the ones they have in airports, to try to detect. Remember when the SARS virus was there and you had these in airports to try to see who was sick? So imagine that I'm meeting with you and now I can tell that you're a little bit sick. Maybe I don't want to shake your hand. Now the question is, before many of you say, hey, you know what, I don't work at a university where I'm developing a new nano enamel, how could I ever use this in my company? And how could I ever use this to create a new company? It's just not something I can do. I want to show you how you can use superhumanism to fundamentally come up with new startup ideas. But first, let's ask the question of what superpowers do people really want? So I did a survey, randomly sampled of 1,000 people. This was US only. I'll actually repeat it for France and tweet it out if you on my Twitter account. But I sampled across kind of average gender for the US. It got kind of the full age distribution, full income distribution, and asked people from each set of 4 superpowers to pick 3. Their choices were these. 1, X-ray vision, teleportation, super healing, never aging, never getting fat, invisibility, flying, being extremely beautiful, super strength, and never being tired. So these were the physical choices. On the mental side, they were asked if they wanted to be able to see the future, read minds, read it very fast, write like a famous author, remember every name of every person they ever met, which I thought, oh my God, I would kill for this. Have perfect grammar, diction, speak every language, calculate math in your head very fast, have super memory of non-faces, everything else, and super creativity. On the emotional side, do you want to be optimistic? Do you want to be trustworthy, patient, confident, have humility, have empathy, always be kind, have unlimited determination, self-control, actually that's what that should say, and super influence. And lastly, on the social side, they were asked if they want the ability to comfort anyone, to be sexually desired by anyone, to show somebody the impact of their actions, like if you do that, you're going to have this mistake later, to have somebody know all of your accomplishments before you even have to say it, to have what we call super comebacks. So, if somebody gives you a little dig, you can instantly snap back with a great response. Conviction, know if you can trust somebody, convince, influence, and know if a friend is in need. So we didn't just ask, do you want to fly? We asked kind of section by section by section, what superpowers do you really want? Now, here's some of the results that we got. And I must say, originally I thought this talk was going to be about all the physical superpowers. How do you become like Superman, and how do you get super hearing, and how do you get super sight? And then when I got these results back, I realized, oh wait, there may be a different answer here. So first let me tell you what they did not pick. They do not want to be very humble. Not surprising. They do not want to be very empathetic. They don't want to read fast, and they don't want to remember every name. So I was quite wrong on that. X-ray vision, not so useful, despite Pamela Anderson there. And people like to sleep. They were like, I want to sleep. I like sleeping. Surprisingly, though, these weren't at the very bottom, but they weren't at the very top either. People did not want to be sexually desired by anyone they wanted. They did not want to see the future, which this one really surprised me. I was like, I would want to see the future. That sounds like an awesome superpower. But they did not. Super strength was not desired. Whether or not you could trust somebody actually was not that high on the list. The ability to convince anybody was not that high on the list. And super memory was not there. So it's a little surprising kind of what was there, what was not on the top. So what was kind of the top 10 superpowers people wanted? One, starting at number 10, is if a friend is in need. People wanted to know if their friend needed them. One of the top 10 superpowers, so more than sexually attractive, etc. Number 2, always having patience. Now remember, this was 1,000 people we sampled. Number 3, super healing and immunity, which, okay, that makes sense. Never aging, that makes sense as well. Super creativity, this was a little surprising, but people seem to really desire the ability to express themselves creatively. Reading minds, well, I get why that would be useful. Invisibility, this and flying kind of were the two physical ones that always showed up at the top in every version of this survey we did. But the ability to comfort anyone, this was a little surprising to me. Teleportation, I understand that. Like, I can be anywhere at any time. The ability to fly, frankly, I'd rather have teleportation than flying because, your hair doesn't get messed up. Always being confident. This was another very surprising one, especially over all the other things you didn't pick in order for this to be this high. And last but not least, speaking all languages. Now, speaking 1 or 2 languages, I understand the value of, but why would you want to speak every single language? But what it tells us, if you look at speaking all languages, in knowing if a friend is in need, the ability to comfort anyone, you realize that actually some of the very top things people want are social superpowers, not just physical superpowers. Some of the mental ones, like speaking all languages, reading minds, super creativity, also scored very high. So when we traditionally think of superhumanism, we thought of all these physical improvements we can make, but actually many of the mental, social, and emotional ones always seem to come up near the top and actually dominate. There were some age and gender differences, though. In fact, we looked at young men versus old men, with 45 years old kind of being the break point. We looked at young women versus old women, again, 45 being the break point. What we found, by the way, is old men, young women, and old women all looked a lot like the average, but young men under 45 looked very different. They wanted a bunch of things like reading minds, convincing, showing the impact, kind of what I call things to argue and persuade their point far more than the other groups did. Older women, by contrast, just wanted to make sure they were still optimistic in life, that they could be trusted. And interestingly, the only group that in their top 10 had sexually desired and super strength were actually old men. So maybe they're trying to go back to their youth. And the only group that said they never wanted to get fat was actually women under 45. So now let's think about how to apply this to products. So loosely speaking, think about Locatron. It's actually a form of teleportation. So now that you know what the superpowers are, you can start thinking about products that don't have to be full teleportation, where I'm going to move your entire body, which we don't always know the technology to do that. But I could do Locatron, where you can still open your door without moving your entire body. You can make a lawnmower that's actually controlled by somebody in another country, so that when it gets stuck or when it sees the dog run across the grass, he can stop it. That's actually a form of teleportation. It's said that you want to be able to comfort anyone. If that's true, then it sounds like you should write a script that looks at all your friends' walls on Facebook, and the second anybody puts something like, "I had a bad day," or "My dog died," it should SMS you on your phone right away or send you a push notification so you can immediately go and comfort them. If they want super creativity, you realize that Pinterest and Houzz and a number of these sites are actually kind of doing that. They're providing you with this visual variety that gives you more and more ideas and enhances your creativity. If people want to be more confident, there's sites like Lumosity that not only gives you a mental quiz, but then shows you your percentile rank. And if you can say, you know what, I didn't think I was that good at this logic game, but then I noticed that amongst all the 65-year-old men, I'm actually one of the top X%, it actually will help. There's a site called Strava, which every time you do a bike ride, it actually shows you how fast you climb that mountain compared to everybody else, and you can sort it by age and sort it by weight even to really see. So there's ways to kind of help you with your confidence, even when you're 1,427th on this climb out of 40,700 people, but still by your age and your height, you may be significantly higher. If you think about it, Google traffic is actually a form of seeing the future. If you keep going down this road and do not change, you will hit that traffic. It's giving you a foreshadowing of kind of what's ahead. And so all of this is basically a way to say, you know what, as you think about your startup ideas, think about the deepest things that people want, the needs that are really unfulfilled in their lives. Not just, oh, I'd really like a faster way to update my Facebook account from my phone, but what are the core needs that they want, and how can you satisfy at least a piece of that in one way or another? So enjoy ideating. I encourage everybody here to come up with the biggest ideas you can. And actually, over the next few weeks on Twitter, I will put out bits and pieces of this data if you actually want to look through it and use it to do your own ideation, as well as I'll see if I can find a service that allows me to do the same survey in Europe and see if we get the same results. Thank you very much.